Hi, everybody. So today I have Z
Hello.
with me, and we're going to
Hi,
talk about
everybody.
thoughts. Yes. So Z and I have a lot of conversations about this, and it's one of the things that I don't think humanity's totally grasped. So Z is an expert at this, and she can see the intricacies, can't even say the word very well, of the thought and how it like transforms into things. So what we're doing is we're going to talk about that today. So
Mhm.
what is the true power of thought, Z?
Yeah, in the interstices.
The intricacies. Yeah.
So thought is really, I mean, and you talk about the mind being the first law of the universe. Everything is created out of some sort of a thought form. If you really get a feel for what a thought is, and this is what I want everybody to do, because to break this down is to really feel what it is. And we hear about it all the time, like watch your thoughts, watch your thought forms. But no, in reality, that's the whole universe. It's what it's based off of. So I really want to just bring into a direct point that it's so important to watch your thoughts, right? All of our systems, all of our cells, every single atom in the universe is created out of a thought. And we have these thought forms and they create direction. They have memory. They allow us to expand. They allow us to collect information. They allow us to manifest anything that we want. So, yeah, extraordinarily important.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think a lot of people have really hit on that in the manifestation field. But the thing that I feel like gets missed is it used to take longer. So you had to hold space longer for that thought to manifest. And also, I don't think anybody was telling you how to get rid of the things that were in the way,
Right, absolutely.
the old
And the reason
thoughts.
yeah, for sure. The reason why it took so long is because we had so many programs that we had to work through. And that's another aspect of thoughts is thoughts are directive of a construct. And in humanity, we've had so many of them and they've been really thick. So we'd say, okay, have this, we're going to have this thought. We're going to keep that energy flowing. It's going to be our manifestation. It would take a very long time because we didn't quite understand that every single time we did that, we had about a billion layers of constructs to cut through in order to get that in manifestation.
Mhm. So when you get into a limiting belief, which comes from the subconscious mind, it's almost, you've thought of it so many times or heard it so many times, it becomes part of the program. Um, how do you set that aside? What do you do to set that aside?
Well, generally, if it's a thought form that I can feel in my body, because humans are unique in the way that our thoughts are attached to our emotions, and if I can feel it in the body, if it has some sort of angst to it or a pain or anything like that as I'm watching my thoughts, then I know that there's a construct there. If it brings up fear, if creates a block, if I can't move forward in something, then I know that I'm caught on a thought form or a belief system, a construct that needs to be taken a look at. Um, where we're at right now, it is faster because we have all these frequencies supporting us coming through there in our ascension process. So it's not that we have to dive in so deep to clear that out. We're just bringing it into awareness. Oh, look at that. I'm going to allow myself to feel it. I don't have to get attached to it. I don't have to know exactly what it is. I'm going to allow it to move through my body. As soon as you do that, I mean, it can take seconds at this
Mhm.
point to shift that through and get it out of your system. Now we are multidimensional and we are multi-perplexed with our neural networking. So our systems are going to kind of want to go back to hit on that particular belief system. And that's when you have to redirect it into something else, something positive, and that's what's going to close off that direct link in your neural networking.
Mhm. And I think saying, like, no, that's the past. I'm going into the future.
Hmm.
Actually
Hmm.
creating an ending for that is really important. And the first thing that
Absolutely.
popped in was trees, to get out with the trees
Hmm.
into nature to magnify the feeling that you're projecting into the whatever it is you're manifesting. I feel like we should give an example of manifesting, because we're manifesting the new earth,
Hmm.
the new way that society is going to work, the new everything, basically.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So start thinking about that and finding joy in that. And then
Hmm.
also do it for yourself. You can do it for the collective. What's your part in the
Hmm.
collective? How do you want to experience it? And then also, how do you want to see your smaller life, the things that are closer to you, not necessarily smaller, but how do you want to experience
Absolutely.
them? Yeah. Um, I think it's a great thing to journal. Journaling
Hmm.
would be great for that. Um,
Journaling, getting outside, like she said with the trees are really great because they work with root systems. So to get a feel for them, they can help assist you like with any roots that need to kind of be looked at. And I am just going to say look at because I'm going to work with this observational field. We want to observe these thoughts. If there's a feeling there that needs to shift, that's okay. Also, too, with our feeling, it's to really now work with our boundaries, say no really loudly. We don't need to
mhm,
be in any of those spaces that we were before with fear or any of those aspects. So for me, if there's a fear something coming up, that's just a no because it's not reality for me. There is no fear. That's something that we created. So that's just something that the ego is going to try and hit off of because the ego is going to try and keep all of the constructs living. It wants to keep those alive. That's the point of that, and that's why that's the teacher. So to go out to the trees, get a feel for it. With manifestation, for humans, if you link that to a feeling of joy, creativity, see our words today,
yeah.
optimism, joy, excitement, then the manifestation is going to come really fast.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't think we've realized yet the value of play and the
Hmm.
value of joy because it speeds everything up.
Hmm.
And I think in learning, it speeds it up by like 400 times or something. It's crazy. It's like you only have to
It's
do
a
it a
lot.
few times if you're
Hmm.
playing, but you have to do it like 400 times if you're in like an office setting or a school setting to learn it.
Hmm.
So use that principle
Hmm.
to go forward, have fun. I feel like fun has been like beat into the ground through this
Totally.
process.
Uh-huh. Through the
Yeah,
whole process of humanity.
right. Oh,
It's
like
been
work,
taken
work,
away.
work. Yeah, and also um with the ascension process, that was very confusing and taken so seriously at first.
Hmm.
And the whole awakening process to what was going on in the outside world, that
Yep.
was heavy stuff.
It was
So
really
we're
heavy.
starting to come out of it and feels really good, but we're not quite into the flowing into play
Right,
for
right,
most of the
right.
day.
And that's where we want to bring it. We want to call in the flow. As if
Mhm.
you turn everything into a play or a story. And this is where I want to break down stories because we also hear too like don't create a story about that. Don't even the universe is created off of stories, everybody. It's one giant play story. So how would you want to create that? Even if you're feeling something dense, which happens, we all go through those periods where we're working through something. Even in those periods, okay, like I'm feeling this right now, how can I create a story out of this? How can this be? Sometimes I'll feel something and I'll be like, dang it, SpongeBob has his pants over his head again. And that can get me into an excitement phase, right? Just
Yeah.
play with it. And then what's the next step? And then what's the next step? Because with our thoughts, every time we have a thought, we shift a parallel. Every time we blink our eyes is actually a thought because it takes thought in order for us to move our bodies.
Mhm.
So, which
Yeah.
one would you like to bring in? How would you like to play? How would you like to play with the universe? And this is unique to everybody, so it does work with the collective, but it starts with you personally.
Mhm. And thinking about your favorite game, I think is
Mhm.
important because even though this is a huge learning process that we're going through, it is also a constructed game.
Mhm.
It is a game of a sort, like it's the game that we're always playing as consciousness. We're always playing some
Mhm.
sort of game and learning something. And I feel like if we're not, we're in that state of bliss or boredom, one or the other. And once we hit boredom, we're like, time to go play another game, time to
Exactly.
go learn
Uh-huh.
something else. But yeah, it's a really interesting thing that's coming in. Like, we are allowed to turn this into a game.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And we're kind of going from battleship into something more fun, like shoots and ladders, like think about
Exactly.
it that way. Yeah.
Or a carnival or something that
Mhm.
like really, and I'm going to bring this back to the inner child, that ignites your inner child. What makes that the most excited? What makes that the most happy? If you really love to play with toy trucks and you're like, but I don't know how to do that now, get really creative with it. Make your own.
Yeah.
Those ideas and thoughts are from universal divine intelligence are going to come in through that aspect. It's going to come in through the play aspect, that this is a game. This is something that we can create per second moment, because every time we have a thought per moment, that creates a new game, actually.
Mhm. And it's how your inner child is going to be released, you know, like
Yes.
through play, your inner child. And that's the consciousness that is actually ascending,
Hmm.
because your soul has ascended over and over and over and over.
Over and over.
Yeah.
Infinitely.
So, yeah. And your soul is like the guide. I always feel like lately the soul is the parent of the inner child. And I
Hmm.
know I'm learning things from my soul that my inner child hasn't brought forward into my consciousness yet.
Hmm.
Like the inner child hasn't totally grasped it yet. And it's a really beautiful adventure that we're all on.
It is. It is. And
Mhm.
it's really beautiful to see it as an adventure, a very curious adventure.
Mhm.
And anytime, thought forms get a little bit weird or feel a little bit off, I always go back into curiosity at like, oh, look, this is there. I'm curious about how I can take a next step on my adventure. And that will shift the energy right there into something that's more optimistic, is what we're really made for. So when those inner
Yeah.
children come out, it's that innocent part that we want to stay with, because the innocence keeps it in flow.
Mhm. And they are very innocent. Like they feel like they've been kind of hidden for so long that they're coming out into the sunlight and they're like, oh, it's like an awe-inspiring feeling for them.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. It's
So
exciting.
it is exciting. So what else do we have to say about this? Do you have any examples that you can think of? Like manifestation? I know we're doing it all day long.
Manifestation. We are
Yeah.
doing it all day long.
Um,
I would say
go ahead.
go ahead. I would say we still have the releasing aspect. So if you have something that you want to manifest, it's you're sending it out to the universe, and then you're dropping anything and everything else in and around it, how that's going to get there, how you're going to work your way through that. For me, I let's see, this last week I wanted to play music, and I wanted to actually get an instrument. And so, what I do when I have a manifestation is I throw it out there. I have the image of it and the feeling of me playing it. And really, it's my little kid playing it. I always go back to the little kid. So that's a really kind of an important note when you want to manifest, is like, how would your kid like want to interact with this manifestation? What would that look like? What would that feel like? And then I dropped it, and I was like, okay, whatever that adventure looks like. And I remember I was playing, and I was playing with my partner's kid too. And all of a sudden, I just kind of left. I'm like, I'm gonna go out for a walk, and I went for a run. And I found myself at the music store, and I didn't even realize that that's what I was doing. But my higher self was like, oh right, 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 and I ended up getting an instrument, and it was fantastic. But that's the adventure of it. That's how that can work. You throw it out there, and then you go on an adventure, and through that adventure, that comes to you really quickly.
Yeah. and like you get the inspiration comes through when it's time to actually go look for whatever it is you manifested.
Yep. Yep.
That's the one thing that I think sometimes people miss is they don't go look.
Uh-huh.
They don't
Yeah.
do the action. And we almost always have like some kind of action. It can be really, really small, but you have some sort of action physically to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, action is how the divine and the universal intelligence works through our body. So it runs through our higher selves, and our soul is saying, "Hey, this is the direction to go." And you can hear it for the most part, or you just feel it. You just all of a sudden you just walk outside, or it could be something as small as like, "I need to look at the sun for a second," and you have your next move.
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And I also want to bring it back into like inspired action, because that's also going to keep it in a creativity mode. I was the one that was playing, and that play is what created that connection with my soul and my inner child to be like, "Hey, it's time to just go get in the car." And I just followed it without anything else, you know? And that's where this is the pathway is going to lead you. You just have to follow it and trust that process.
Hmm. Yeah, it really it works even for things that you may think are big, because nothing is actually big to the universe.
Mm-mm.
But in our mind, it may be programmed as something big, like a large amount of money or some new item. Like for me, it was my office, and I didn't feel like it was big, but I also looked for it for probably a
Uh-huh.
couple of weeks, spent time on Facebook Marketplace and looked at a few things. Didn't physically go to them, but contacted people and did that stuff. And then the thing that I actually wanted showed up from a friend of a friend.
Yes.
And I
Uh-huh.
knew that that was the one because of the way it looked on the inside. It had a color in there that I wanted. So the appliances would
Ah, okay.
peel. And I'm like, that's the one. And it was astonishing how inexpensive it was and all of the things, there's still a little work to be done to get into it, like some power stuff but really it was tremendously easy. And as soon as I said,
Uh-huh.
well,
Uh-huh.
I've looked for a while, I'll just let it show up, there it was a couple days
Yeah.
later. Yeah.
Yep. And it comes as soon as you just drop it, you know?
Yeah.
You drop how it's gonna come, and it just shows up on your door.
Mhm.
It's a really beautiful process, and I would also say to kind of work with this manifestation is to also work at anything that's counteracting that or causing resistance in that. And I would say for humanity as a whole, the needing to work hard for it and that things don't come easy is some of the biggest ones to kind of look at when you're moving through that, because it is easy. It's easy as a snapping your fingers. It's
Mhm.
just realizing that it is easy, and that's the game to play.
Yeah, and those phrases were created by somebody who didn't want you to know your own power.
Exactly.
So it's important that we let go of those. And I think they get started, with maybe not with an inverted frame of mind. And we're not really in that inverted space anymore,
Right.
where it's all being exposed, all the inversions being exposed, and people are saying no to it and very loudly saying no, which is awesome. But when you find it in your own psyche,
Uh-huh. Yep.
neutralize it. Say, actually, that's not the truth. The truth is this. And say it 3 times, I would say, because
Yes,
then it
absolutely.
gets in better, you know. Yeah.
Absolutely. Or even just as many times as you feel it, like it settles into your system, because every body is different. So a lot of times, like I'll say it and I'll tap on my heart a little bit so that it goes into my system fully. The repetition in that is important, and it'll get to the point where we don't need that repetition because our bodies will be like, "Got it."
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like the body upgrades that have been coming in are so massive. And we
Uh-huh.
don't think about our body as a programmable thing, like it's a beautiful vehicle, but it also has programming inside of it. And that's how
It
we
does.
breathe. That's how we walk without thinking of it, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And we don't really break it down very often, I don't
No, we
think.
don't.
Mm-mm.
No. And I just want to say too, like it can get like when you're in a space where you're like, I don't know what to do or I don't know where to start with this, it's really important to say, hey, look, everything in the universe is a construct, which means that everything that like I'm experiencing actually isn't real. And if you say that to yourself, then you can create the pathway that you want to, because what you're trying to get a hold of or whatever it is that's like I don't know is something that's like not real. Even our bodies are, they're just a construct, right? they're
Hmm.
just they're just a thought form themselves, if you think about it that way.
Yeah.
So to come back into, I guess everything that I'm actually experiencing right now isn't real. It's not the reality of who I am. So who am I? What is it that I am in my own power? How does that look like to me? And where can I take the next step in that? And it's creating whatever you want to with that, really, and
Hmm.
creating a meaning on that, because nothing here, it has meaning on it. That's what we create with our thoughts that have meaning to it.
Yeah, exactly. And I've noticed through the process of ascension and through clearing programming and everything,
Mhm.
I'm not thinking constantly like I used to be. Like it used to just be a barrage of thinking, thinking, thinking.
Yep.
And it really has settled down and life is more peaceful
Uh-huh.
and it's easier to focus. Not that I do it that well either, but it is easier to focus when it's time to focus and to be
Uh-huh.
present in the moment. I think the biggest thing is being present in the moment that you're in,
Absolutely.
because that's all there is, really.
That's it.
Hmm.
And that also too, like even with the focus part, is also a construct that we need to focus on a particular thing, or we need to get, and that's where the need comes from, that can be attached to that focus part.
Yeah.
And this is where we have really shifted from that head process, the mind process, into staying really heart centered. And when we're in that space, the things get done because we don't have to focus on like getting, they just get done. That's where the flow comes in.
Yeah. Yeah. And the majority of my day at this point has become flowy, except for the things that I've written on the calendar. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. Like if I wrote it down and I can see that it's something that has to happen at one certain time of day with another person, then
Yep.
it'll happen then. But everything else is kind of in flow.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
it's been
And for
really
those,
beautiful.
oh, go ahead. Yeah. For those things that are on the calendar or that have a time meeting, you can also just say, hey, universe, I need to be present at this particular time. Okay. This is
Yeah.
where this is coming in. Like I've got to be at this point. And then if you also drop that, then you'll and follow yourself and your heart center, and you'll know that you'll be on time in that present state, because the universe is there to support that piece.
Hmm. Yeah. It's like waking up without the alarm clock. You just
Exactly.
wake up. Yeah. Um, that's a beautiful thing too. And I think everything that we do, we can think about like, what is that going to do for me, for my person, my programming, my consciousness? What can I do to keep going forward and not do it in a way that's hard on you, but think about it as a game, as a progression.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Hmm. Yeah.
And it's also really important right now, just if you are having so many thoughts that you're not really sure, that's a good note to get back into your heart. So breathe into that, get out of all of those thought forms, because your heart is really the one that is got the thought forms that you need from the universe. That's really what it's speaking through.
Yeah. Yeah. The heart, if you can get in there and just love yourself up every day, like that's huge. That's a huge thing, the self-love, because
Absolutely.
our consciousness hasn't been allowed to do that for very long. We're just now coming into it. And it's like a freedom that we haven't experienced for a really long time as a group. So the more that we do it, the more it also allows others to do it, just like how we were told to stand a certain distance away.
Uh-huh.
Your energy field, the things that you're doing are going to spread, especially if you're doing something that's really beneficial. I feel like. I feel like people are not
Absolutely.
accepting the more icky things anymore. They're actually saying no to that. They can feel it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the beautiful part that I see like more consistently is people are just like, yeah, no, I'm not playing there. I
Yeah.
don't even have, they don't even have the energy for it because those constructs are getting fully broken down in humanity.
Hmm.
So to stay there and be like, if that's icky, it's just a no. That's a part of the game that I don't want to play. And that's generally how I say that too. I'm not playing that game. We're not going there. And the
Hmm.
energy just shifts that right out of your field because it's no longer part of your reality at that point.
Yeah. And you have the power to remove it whenever you want to. So I think remembering that it brings us more and more into sovereignty, and it gets easier and easier to manifest what we're creating. And it's created too, like it's
Absolutely.
done. It's just we need to vibrate up to it and to relax.
Exactly.
Hmm.
It's just that little tuner that you okay, this is the right vibration that I want to be at. That's the right parallel. Everything, every thought form that you do have that's running through there, everything has been created. Everything that you could ever think of has been created. It's all there. It's out there now. So it's just it's shifting yourself to be on in that space.
Yeah. So I hope this helps everybody. I feel like this is a really good way to get started. And this is a really good way to get started. Writing stuff down, excuse me, writing stuff down is really helpful because you're bringing it in, you're grounding it into this reality for yourself and into the game that you're playing. And try not to be offended. We don't mean the game is not like a big deal, but we mean that it is something you can change. It is an actual game. And maybe that's not the best word, but you can manipulate the matrix if you want to.
You can,
Yeah.
absolutely. We're here to manipulate, and that also brings in constructs of manipulation. But this is manipulation in the appropriate way, and
Yeah.
that means just shifting. You can shift energy in any which direction that you want to. That's your power. That's your given right. That's your birthright here.
Mhm.
Another thing coming through is it's also really important to remember that you are sovereign. You've always had your freedom. We're shifting into knowing that now. That's
Yeah.
always been there. So you can
Yeah.
do whatever you want.
You can do whatever you want. You can be whatever you want. And sometimes that is like taken in steps, and sometimes it's right overnight it's happening. So just, I think calling in your highest good, whatever's in my highest good, is really helpful in this process. And also that it harms no other. I think we're kind of past that at this point. Like, and the
Uh-huh.
universe isn't going to do that. But knowing that we're not harming others by elevating ourselves is important. And staying in the same place if they're at a different tuning, maybe their radio station's a little lower on the dial.
Uh-huh.
You going up on a different, like maybe you're 101 and they're 82, that's okay. You're not abandoning them. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. That is super important. That's actually loving yourself.
Hmm.
Loving yourself is being able to do that. And it's also being aware, being aware, oh, hey, look, they're there, and that's okay. I'm going to continue to shift. And that also
Yeah,
doesn't mean that they shift right out of your lives right away either, because, your internal is your external. So what you've done to shift is actually help them shift to a different level, whatever that is.
exactly. I think of it as a boat, and you have a wake and you've got somebody that's like riding your waves, and they're there. They're just not in the boat with you.
Yeah. They're in
So,
their own boat having an
yeah,
adventure.
exactly. So I feel like that's really good. I would probably practice that, you guys, if you can. If you're feeling like you're not manifesting the life that you want, this is a great way to get started.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and be kind and compassionate to yourself and have a lot of fun with it. That's
Mhm.
the biggest thing too. And it's a process. So trust that. You know,
Yeah.
even with the tiny steps that you do take, like it's still going to come to you. It might take, however long it takes to invest. And that's another thing to do. Like some things don't come right in your face right away because your system's still working through something or it's a timing thing for your soul. So,
Right.
but it will come. You keep taking those steps, it will come.
It will come. And if you need help, Z is still doing individual sessions and she can help you come through those things if you feel there's something that you're not able to reach, to let go of, something in your system. And I do programs for that too. So,
Uh-huh. Yes.
if you want to be self-guided or if you want to have individual help, that's available for you guys.
It is. And we all need the support. It doesn't mean that you're not in yourself by doing that either.
Mm-mm.
All we do is bring awareness to yourself so that you can have more empowerment for yourself.
Yep. So this was great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Z. I
Thank you so
appreciate
much.
it. Okay. Bye,
Thank you,
everybody. Thank
everybody. We
you.
love you.
Bye.
Bye.